Our next speaker shares insights on what challenges business women have to face from both sides of the table as a VC and as a former founder. Anisha Singh, founding partner, She Capital, founder and ex-CEO, MyDala.com. Anisha Singh is the founding partner of these two wonderful ventures, and at an early stage venture, she funds and invests in high growth, women led or focused startups. Anisha has worked with the Clinton administration on an initiative called Springboard, which has helped women entrepreneurs in the US raise venture funding. Anisha was recognized as one of the top 100 global diversity leaders in the year 2019, and under the business category in Women in Asia, the 50 most influential women in 2018. She was ranked amongst the top 7 women startup CEOs located outside the US by Crunchbase in 2018. So the way Anisha would like to do this is present her point of views, but the floor is open from the word go for your questions. So if you do have questions, go fire them away on the chat box and she will respond to you right after I say goodbye and welcome Anisha on board. So well, wherever you are, put your hands together and invite Anisha on board, please.
Hi. All right. So, okay. Thank you for that, Kubra. I just wanted to actually, you know what? I thought that was a fascinating intro, and I don't know how I'm going to beat that in terms of even speaking after that. So like she said, like Kubra said, I want to keep this really casual because you'll realize over the next 10, 15 minutes, that's my style. And I actually do think I'm an authority on talking about pitches because as an entrepreneur, I think over the life, we must have pitched to over 250 VCs, which doesn't sound like much nowadays because you hear of so many VCs, but trust me, since 2009, doing this till 2017, that was a lot of pitches that we were doing. So I want to start with a fun story, which will tell you guys that is challenging to pitch in general. One of the pitches that we were doing, we especially flew into Mumbai to pitch, and I was really excited because it was one of the few women investors that I had heard about. I was very excited, and we went in there and we started pitching, and I was so excited. And 10 minutes later I turned and she looked like she was nodding off. So the reason I tell you this story is because I want everybody to understand that don't be hard on yourselves. And there are different challenges. And I clearly had a challenge when I was pitching. And I really had to work at it in terms of telling a story. So basically, that's it. So I actually noted down top 5 points, which I wanted to go over now that I moved from the founder side to the investor side, and that I think are really important. But I'd love for people to ask questions and make this more of an interactive session than me talking, because honestly, that's just awkward. First and foremost, build a relationship. I can't stress this enough. Imagine if you knew there was a neighbor, but you didn't know them enough, and they came and asked you for money. I'm not sure you'd be okay with just giving somebody who you don't know money. So it's the same. And I don't know why we don't use this precedent. And Kubra talked about this. You guys heard about networking and everything. I think networking is a broad term. The best way to describe this and say, look, there are many facets of networking and many shades of doing things the way you have to do. And I think one of those is just kind of reaching out to anybody in the investor world who you think is interesting and talking to them. And this is much before you want to raise funding, okay? Because you should be raising funding when you actually don't need the money. And so these conversations need to happen much earlier, where you start building relationships with people who actually, if they're not, going to be investing in you, feel comfortable enough referring you to their friends and saying, hey, I know a great entrepreneur. I love the stuff that they're doing. Because really in early stages, you and I both know that it's really the founders that people bet on. It's not really, the scale that you guys are at. It's really the founder and the idea. And I think it's really, really important to build those relationships early. Second, you only get a chance once, okay? So we get pitches all the time, and you can tell a stellar pitch, and you can tell people who just send messages saying, hey, I have an idea, want to chat. Now, I have an idea, want to chat is not going to get you the same response as a very meticulous email that actually talks about why somebody should grab coffee with you or why somebody should spend 10 minutes talking to you. And I think that's really important, because you really, this is almost as important as the elevator pitch that people keep talking about. I think you need to realize that you're only going to get that one first chance, right? And that counts for you to get the second and the third. The third is the most important: do your homework. I can't, explain to you how important this is. There aren't VCs, I get people asking, this one didn't respond or that one didn't respond. Each venture fund has different specialities that they focus on. Pi Ventures will only look at a very specific kind of investment, and we look at obviously specific kind of investments, and our focusing is more on direct to consumer. So the idea is really do your homework on your investor. There is nothing like that. So even to date, when I go in to meet someone, I'll make sure I know enough about them. The fourth thing: stories sell, but keep them short. I love storytellers. I love great stories. And I'll give you an example. I met a founder on a Saturday, and I love the fact that I had only scheduled 30 minutes. And the story was so impactful that we stayed on, and I listened to the story for 1 hour because she was such a great storyteller. The problem is you've got to keep it tight if there is not enough. So we actually got her to meet some of the other partners, and one of the partners kept emphasizing they only had 45 minutes. The mess up happened where the founder couldn't get into her business idea up until the 40th minute, which left only 5 minutes to tell her story about her business and 40 minutes on herself, which, I mean, you really need to understand the power of storytelling and be able to balance that out. So it's a fine act that you're walking there. And the last thing, and this is the most important for female founders, I can't explain to you how much. This happened the other day. This phenomenal founder walked in, and this happens very, very often. This phenomenal female founder walked in, and she had 2 male counterparts. And what she ended up doing was she talked, and right up front, I had told her, we didn't want to because this market was crowded. We weren't sure if we're going to look. The more she talked, the more impressed I was. And I really, really wanted to know about her business. We talked about her business, super impressed. And then I said, hey, can you run me through the numbers? Can you tell me what's your monthly revenue run rate? How many repeat customers are you getting? And she said, sure. And then she turned to her co-founder and she said, will you take the numbers? I can't explain to you what a pet peeve that is for me personally, but also what this does for investors in general. You have to understand, if an investor thinks that you don't know your numbers, there is nobody who's going to invest. They're trusting you with money. They're trusting you with these numbers that you're supposed to know at the back of your hand. Kitna paisa aata hai, kitna paisa jata hai. So to make sure before you go in, please, and I know women know their rupee count and everything. But for some reason, when it comes to projections or it comes to talking to investors about numbers, I'm not sure why we are so uncomfortable. So please, no matter what it takes, get past that discomfort, because it's one of those hindrances which I actually do think causes us to get less funding than our counterparts. Okay, so I really hope you keep this in mind, and I really, really hope that you don't take this personally, which is, if an investor doesn't invest in you, it's not personal. It's not about your business. This is the only thing I can say now that's sitting on this side of the table. Sometimes, you know what, they've probably invested in an opportunity that's similar, or they're not sure of that particular market space. So I just want to say this and emphasize, because so many times I'll meet phenomenal founders and then they seem really beaten up post 1 or 2 VCs telling them that no, but this is not personal. And as a founder, you have to be able to take that and say, okay, you know what, I'll keep getting up. Because honestly, if you keep getting up, even the gods are going to let you in. My favorite founders in the ecosystem are people who just, they've pitched to us over the last 2 years a couple of times, but they've come back as friends. They've chatted, they've talked, and they've kept me posted on their company. And for some reason, I think we're gonna do something with them at some point, because there is such deep respect for these founders, and they've just made sure that that they keep a relationship going, which comes back to that particular question of making sure that that does happen. And we build a relationship from day one, but keep it going as well, regardless of whether the investor invests in you or not. Don't take it personally. All right, I have a lot of questions that are coming through. I'm going to take a couple and then answer some of these and see how it goes. Okay. What are some of the key elements of a good pitch? I think you really do need to know your numbers. I think you need to talk about the team. You need to talk about the problem you're solving. That's the first and foremost. If you write into She Capital or you contact one of us, we give you a set of 5 things that we really need from you. If you can describe, your value proposition in 2 lines, what is a competitive differentiator that you're seeing in that? What is it that you're seeing as your monthly revenue numbers or your traction, or why are you differentiated from the others? And what is the team that is there? Is it true that angel investors are more likely to fund startups that have co-founders versus? Yes, it is true. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to lie to you and say, no, it's not true. People are, really. Fact of the matter is, solo entrepreneurs do have a slightly rougher time than co-founders. And I do know that this is one of the pain points that everybody has who's started up on their own. There are a couple of people who are looking for great co-founders and haven't been able to find it. And actually, one of the things that we've been toying around is almost starting a concierge service for women entrepreneurs at She Capital, which kind of links them to other prospective co-founders, because this seems to be especially a pain point with female co-founders. Yes, co-founders, I think, are more favorable for a lot of people, regardless of whether they say it or not. They are. As every investor is different, what are a few things we can keep in mind? I think I covered this, but I really do think it's really important to know the investor that you're pitching to, and just know them, do some check on them, look at their companies. One of the things that I really want to mention here, because I don't think people talk about this enough, investors are not demigods. Okay, they definitely aren't demigods. Okay, and I think there's, for some reason, especially women tend to feel a little bit in awe, and that shouldn't be the case, because investors need entrepreneurs as much as entrepreneurs need investors. Okay, and so if you've got a great pitch and you've got a sound team and you know exactly what the problem you're solving, trust me, you're on good footing already. Okay, just do your homework around the investor and know who they've invested in, and just understand the kind of investments that they're doing already. How do I treat the gender bias while pitching to an all-male investor panel? This is a toughie. I think there's a bias. I don't think it's that blatant, like it's right up front. This one, I don't know. I'm going to take a pass on this one, because I think if you're talking sense and you're saying interesting stuff, I do know a lot of founders that have come back and said, we've heard this where, the investors like, I'll go back to my wife and check. And that is one of the reasons that we started She Capital, was because we wanted to kind of solve for that very problem. That being said, there are a lot of VCs right now that are doing some very, very cool active stuff around female founders. I know Surge has started something, Kalari started something. So it's nice to see that the market is already doing a lot of stuff around that, and that particular thing is changing. I'm able to get through the first round of pitch, but then the interest dies down. How do I get an investor to call back? I really think for somebody who said that, you need to actually ask some of the investors, what is the feedback, and don't be afraid to ask that. Just say, I really do want just genuine feedback on what do you think went wrong, or what is it that you think I should have done better, or where are we missing, what are the opportunities we're missing. I think if you ask some of them, they'll come back and tell you, really, there will be some formal answers that just say, no, this wasn't the right timing, or no, we don't believe this is the right thing. However, I do think that a lot of them will come back to you and be able to give you some really interesting perspectives. Actually, I think it's a great way to kind of build your relationship with those particular investors, because a lot of them appreciate the fact that you actually came back to ask for feedback about what can you do better. And that means that you're not afraid of bettering whatever the business model is, or understanding it at least in terms of feedback. All right. Often you send a pitch deck to a VC over email when you're not in the room to sell your idea. Please share what a winning pitch minus a presenter can be like. Some of the great stuff I've seen these days are like a 30-second to a minute-long video. I think those are just brilliant. They explain it instantly. So I think for anybody who's trying to send a pitch deck, my first request to you is, if you're good, and these days you don't even need to go out and get somebody to do it. There are so many softwares that allow you to do it. Is just essentially create a 30-seconder that explains everything, because the attention span is getting reduced everywhere, including the VC world, right? Where there are so many interesting ideas that people are looking at. So if you can send along with your pitch deck, and the pitch deck is very important because it talks about the team, and all sorts of background around you. If you can just send a 30-seconder to a minute long video around your idea, you'll be amazed with the response that you get. So I really think that's needed. And I've seen some people do it and it really stands out. It makes you get it. All right. How does one pitch a product service to a VC that is not your TG and doesn't get the problem that you're trying to solve? Honestly, VCs are meant to get the problem that you're trying to solve. If you're saying that you're, pitching tampons and they don't get it because they're not the target audience, maybe someone on the team gets it, and that might be a better way to approach it. Luckily for us, the women in the investment world seem to be growing at several levels, maybe not at the founding partner level, but there are many, many cool women in the VC world right now. And so you might want to actually go in at that particular level and approach somebody on the team who gets it and who's able to build a little bit more, excitement and championship around that, talking about the fact that this is something that's very much needed. But really, if they don't get the problem that you're trying to solve, maybe they're not the VC for you. That's something to consider. You have to understand that the VC that you want is somebody who wants you as much and believes in your, company as much as you do, that is going to grow. In terms of financials, what numbers? I really think you should know your monthly revenue run rate, the CAC, the LTV, so the customer acquisition cost, the lifetime value on a customer, how much is going to be your burn, here's the tricky question that always comes up, and I always ask it as well, which is, what is the valuation that you're looking for? And I've heard people come up with interesting numbers. Some just say, we're open to it. Some will say a number and not be able to back it up. And some are just phenomenal because they back it up really well. So if you're going to talk about a valuation, please be able to justify why you're asking for that valuation. It can't be that the market asks for it or that's the market standard. You should be able to say, listen, we're going to ask for, 5x of our revenue or 8x of our revenue, or the technology we've developed is so sound that we actually believe that that in the long run, it's something that's of scale, and that is why this is the valuation you're asking. But you have to be able to justify and back up why you're asking that particular valuation. All right. Hope that answers it. Listen, we have a tight time frame, and I see there's a lot of questions coming through. I just want to let you know, if there's anything that we're not able to answer, you can always reach us at hello@shecapital.vc. We're fairly open, and the team is pretty cool. The whole idea is to grow the entrepreneurial ecosystem, especially for women entrepreneurs, and we'll help wherever we can, whatever we can with. Okay. How do we get past the hindrance on numbers? Sometimes we are too passionate and want to leave the financial analysis to the expert. Any particular tips? No, honestly, the only tip is what I said earlier. Please don't do that. Okay, everybody understands. Financial analysis is what you're talking about. If you're talking about financial projections, you must know some numbers. A VC wants to be able to understand that you understand scale, okay, and that you can see the larger picture. So please know that you can tell that, listen, I believe growth is going to be this much at this year one, this is going to be the growth at year two, and this is going to be the growth at year three. Okay, and you're also able to tell that this is going to be the burn, and this is what we're going to get to at a profitable level. We're going to be at this year when we get to a profitable level. These are things that you must be able to talk about. The reason being that this is what shows a VC that you understand scale. And I think this is where women hesitate, because we all run very sound businesses in general, right? All women entrepreneurs just run really tight ships, and they understand exactly how to make the dollar go a mile. But for some reason, when it comes to long term, we're not able to show VC scale. But this is really, really important. So please sit, put the numbers down, and be able to talk about this. Okay, next question. Do VCs look into a need only and social impact? What about core businesses? Would VCs invest in design and build firms? Yeah, there are now a lot of VCs that are doing that. Traditionally, that was not the case. That was left for angel investors to do. There are some VCs now that are aggressively investing in seed stage and ideation. Again, you'd have to do your homework. It also is about track record. I know a lot of VCs that have seeded second time around entrepreneurs without even an idea in place. They've kind of bet on the entrepreneur and given a certain set number of dollars and said, listen, run with it. We know you're going to come up with a phenomenal idea. So it just depends VC to VC, essentially. Kubra, how are we doing on time? We can stop. There's still a lot of questions, so we can keep going on, or we can stop. And I'm more than happy for people to ask me these. But thank you so much. There are so many questions coming through. I'm like overwhelmed with the amount of questions that are there.
Well, Anisha, thanks a lot, for taking us through such a beautiful part of your conversation. Thank you so much for interacting with our audience, because I think through the day, this has been the first session where we haven't had a moderator, and you moderated this session by yourself. So well done, and thank you very much. I mean, talking about taming the bull, there you go. You know how to do it.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. There's so many interesting questions coming through, and they're all really relevant. These are the kind of questions I'd want to know answers to if I was pitching to VCs. So appreciate the, all these amazing interactive and, tough questions coming through. It's much appreciated. And I'm sorry for all the questions that I haven't gotten through, founders. I hope we've answered enough.
You could share, and maybe they could write to you.
Yeah, well, so hello@shecapital.vc comes to all of us at She Capital. So please, if you've got any more questions, reach out to us, and hopefully we can respond back with that, all of us. Okay. Just keep those 5 points in mind, and I think you're going to be good to go. Honestly, I think this is the best time to be a female founder and to be raising. So please, if you've been thinking about it, you're on the fence, just go ahead and do it. I say there's no better time than now. Actually, I've been saying that for 11 years, but I'm literally, there is no better time than now to be a female entrepreneur. So if you're on the fence, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, just look at the change in numbers here from 3.6 billion to 40 billion. I mean, that's where we stand today. And as they say, sky is the limit. So thank you very, very much for your insight. And
Thank
thank you for telling people like me that it's okay to, to not wait for the next bus. Just get walking, man, and you'll get to where you have to. And literally, the next bus will just be on its way. So, thank you very, very much for that.
thank
Really do appreciate you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I think it's time for us to say thank you to Anisha and say, once again, say thank you very much.
thank you.